بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. I even forgot to use the microphone for the first one too. Anyhow, we'll go to the Hadith session. I think we concluded talking about the Fatiha. Inshallah, from the next time we'll start with Surah Al-Baqarah. We will read maybe a Hadith or two in the chapter of Al-Kaba'ir, the grave sins. عن أبي بكرة قال كنا عند رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال ألا أنبئكم بأكبر الكبائر. Should I not tell you or inform you of the gravest of sins? He said it 3 times, and then that is to draw their attention. He says al-ishraku billah, to associate in worship with Allah, wa uququl walidain, to be uququl walidain, to disrespect the parents, that could be uquq al-walidain, to be mean towards them, uquq al-walidain, wa shahadat al-zur, false testimony, أو قول الزور. وكان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم متكئا فجلس فما زال يكررها حتى قلنا ليته سكت. They mentioned something in a small detail, that he was leaning at the beginning of his speech, but then or he was like laying on his side, and then he sat up while he was talking to them. It is just a detail that they mentioned. Maybe it indicates the importance of what he is talking about, and that is why he sat up, to show them that he is talking about something that is very serious. So here, other kaba'ir are mentioned, different from the ones that are mentioned in the previous hadith. In the previous hadith, there was association in worship with Allah, and there was a killing, and there was another grave sin, which is killing, and then the third one was adultery. Here, it is polytheism, being ungrateful and unkind to the parents, and then false testimony. In another narration by also an Anas, he says, الشرك بالله عقوق الوالدين وقتل النفس وقول الزور. He added another one, which is killing. So this shows that different Sahaba would memorize differently, and the best way to know the most comprehensive and complete scenario of what happened is to get as many narrations, actually all the narrations that are available, that talk about that same incident. In another hadith here by Anas, ذكر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الكبائر أو سئل عن الكبائر فقال الشرك بالله وقتل النفس وحقوق الوالدين قال ألا أنبئكم بأكبر الكبائر قال قول الزور أو قال شهادة الزور. Same are mentioned here, the 4: polytheism, being ungrateful and unkind to parents, and then false testimony and murder. All these are the worst of the major sins. I'll read one more. Here, this is a very famous hadith that talks about al-kaba'ir, the major sins. He says, اجتنبوا السبع الموبقات, avoid the 7 sins that lead to perish. قيل يا رسول الله ما هن? He was asked, what are they, O Messenger of Allah? قال الشرك بالله, associated in worship with Allah. السحر, sorcery, witchcraft. So there's adding more here. قتل النفس, murder. التي حرم الله إلا بالحق, except if it's justified, and we talked about this before, such as committing, such as executing somebody who has killed someone else, that's justified. But if it's not justified, then that falls under the major sins. And then aklu mal yatim, to consume the wealth of the orphan, doesn't belong, and the orphan cannot defend himself or prevent that. Consuming the wealth of the orphan, that could apply to anybody who's weak as well. Aklu riba, interest or usury. At-tawalli yawm al-zahf, to flee from the enemy, because that really, if there's a war that's going on already, and some people decide to flee, it can result in a disaster to the rest of the army. Fleeing is not permissible unless the Muslims are extremely outnumbered, that the strength of the enemy is more than double the strength of the Muslims. If it is within the strength of less than double, like 1.5 the strength, or 1.8, Muslims are not allowed to flee. That doesn't go only by numbers, but by also nowadays by equipment and artillery and so on. So that should also be put into considerations. Somebody with a tank, for instance, you can be somebody with a tank. Somebody has a tank. 10 or 20 people cannot cannot do anything with that if they had regular weapons. You follow? So it doesn't only go by numbers. قذف المحصنات meaning slandering the chaste, righteous women or men. If somebody says something awful like accusing someone of adultery, a man or a woman, and that person is innocent, that's called قذف المحصنات, and that's a huge sin as well. قذف المحصنات الغافلات المؤمنات means they're believers, they are unaware of all this, they have nothing to do with this sin, and somebody says something awful like this about them. We'll stop there.